Kia ora e te iwi, welcome back to Under the Whāriki. I'm Tahu.
And I'm Anatola, and today our episode is on consent and sexual harm prevention. We have a beautiful guest with us today. I'm so excited for her to introduce herself. But yeah, we'll give it off to you to introduce yourself to the potty.
Yay, tēnā kōrua, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, Jess.
So my name is Jess Tyson, no Te Ātiho Nui a Paparangi. I grew up in Whanganui, now live in Auckland. I am the founder of Brave Charitable Trust and I work as a news reporter at Te Awa Moana, current affairs show at Whakaata Māori.
Massive, that was good.
Thank you.
Wait, that was very,
you.
that was very good.
I was quite proud of myself.
Gorgeous.
Yes. Well, we start our game with an icebreaker, even though that was a good icebreaker.
Yeah, that was.
You smashed it. Icebreaker, the game is I read a statement and you have to agree whether, or disagree, whether you are the yeah, nah, or nah,
Nah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's called yeah,
So
nah,
yeah,
nah,
nah
yeah.
is like no.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
And
the nah, yeah
yeah,
is
nah,
like,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
nah,
Yeah, yeah, nah, nah, yeah. And some of them were like, yes.
Yes, yeah, if you're strongly opinionated about that topic. Anyway, here's our kaupapa, okay? It is okay, someone has written this wrong. Is there a correct way to hang toilet paper?
Like, as in, like, you're not wiping, you're just, like, hanging it on the wall, like...
I think they're meaning, like, if you have the toilet paper facing out or facing in.
Oh, okay.
I think I have my definite. There's the nah,
Definite,
yeah.
nah, yeah, there is a right
Yeah,
way.
you've got to have it's got to, so the wall's here.
Yes.
Got to have it going over. And you can even tuck it under, like at hotels, you know, it looks fancy.
It's like a little fancy.
Because
little
if
pocket.
if you've got it the other way round, then you've got to like, if it's in the night time, you can't find it. You know, like where is it? You've got to go underneath.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if that was my question to answer, but that's
No, it's
It is,
everyone.
it is. So
Yeah,
you're
it's
nah,
good.
yeah.
yeah.
Nah, yeah.
I like that though, because in the nighttime when you're like, oh, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's already sitting on top.
On
then,
top, you just,
you know.
honestly, I'm like, I have no real opinion about it. I'm like, I feel like however way I can get, as long as there's toilet paper.
Yeah.
The worst thing is when, I
drip
hate
dry.
it. It's the worst thing. And my sister's bathroom is next to mine. I'm always like banging on the door.
Yeah.
And she just takes her time. So I would say, yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. Like, it depends. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really mind. As long as there's toilet paper, I'm all good.
I think I'm pretty similar to you where it doesn't get to me too much.
No.
But there's not that many things I hate in this world.
Right. Oh, okay.
But I hate you pricks that leave just the toilet roll on. Oh my God, I hate you.
Why? Why?
Put it in the rubbish and get me a new toilet.
toilet
If you're the
paper.
last person to take the last couple of sheets, how dare you leave just the cardboard on there? What am I going to do with that?
What? That's the worst thing in the world. Wait, question. Are you a scruncher or like a roller?
Oh.
Scrunch.
Yeah? Scrunch?
I can't be
You're
asked.
just like-
Yeah, it
you're like
takes too
this.
long. It takes too long
Right,
for me.
right.
Yeah, I'm not too much fussed about it, and the nighttime thing doesn't affect me because I just
Guys
Don't
don't,
need
have to
toilet
like, yeah.
yeah.
Must be nice. Are you a roller or a scruncher?
I would say like a more of a roller,
Me too.
but like
think
not
that's a
around the
lucky
hand.
thing.
It would have to be
Yeah.
like on the palm, because if you get it around the hand, then how do you like get it
yeah,
off? You know?
exactly. Exactly. I'm not a scruncher because I feel like it's just like everywhere. You know? Anyway, beside the point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Okay, so we are going into a pop quiz.
Yes.
And basically this is just you asking us questions.
Okay,
and
goody.
Tahu and I have these beautiful whiteboards. And this is where we write our answers on.
Okay, I'm so
although
excited.
these are hard topics, we do get a little bit competitive. But that's just because I want to beat Tahu. In all things.
Yeah.
I'm also like that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 4 questions here.
Okay. Let's
We
do
need a little
it.
drum roll. Okay.
Okay.
Number 1. Is consent education compulsory in schools?
The thing is,
There's no thing. It's yes or no. It's yes. Yes, but no. Take the but out. It's no.
You're right.
Yeah, it's not
I thought it was
compulsory.
No, it's not.
compulsory. Oh.
Yeah.
There is mahi being done to try and make it compulsory.
Make it compulsory, yeah.
That's a
Silly,
weird
isn't
thing
it
to not
silly?
have.
Shouldn't it be
Oh,
Well, it's
compulsory?
recommended in
Yeah.
yeah. It's recommended,
The whole education system.
but they
is
just
pretty
can
similar.
loop out, but it's not compulsory. Right.
Because
Yes.
that's a huge day-to-day thing, skill to know.
Hard
Yeah.
out.
Consent, eh?
Yeah.
So important. I feel like all ages should be learning about it.
Yeah,
You know, from year 1 up to year 13.
exactly.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a
what's,
lot of
what's,
thoughts.
Wait, what's the, because it's like they're trying to do it for a bill, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll talk, yeah.
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 I'm not, yeah, anyway. Okay, next one.
One.
Please give me, this is not a yes or no, what are 2 rules around consent?
Oh.
It's okay, we'll talk about this too, I think.
2 rules. Damn it.
So that would be, you can only give consent if.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh,
Should we change it to 1? No.
I've got 2.
Okay.
yeah, I've got
okay.
2, but I don't know how to word the second one, so I'm just going to
That's
talk
all
to
right.
it.
I find it hard to word things too.
Oh, all the time. Every time. I feel like I've answered this right. Who knows? Look.
Okay. I've gone with
Oh, yeah.
my first rule, you have to be 16 and over
Well done.
to give consent.
Yes.
And a second rule about consent is that you can take it back at any time.
Yes.
Love
During the
that.
I'm
process.
amazed. Well done.
Nice work, Tahu.
Good.
I said over 16, and the second one is like you
Yes.
can't be like drunk on something
Yes.
where you're not in
Oh,
your
so you
right mind to
can't
make a
give
decision.
consent like if you're drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
So like
When you're
this,
on-
and it creates so many problems
right.
if you're drunk. We'll talk about that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you can explain it.
So, and that's why things like rape occur,
Mm.
because technically rape happens when someone doesn't give consent and people have sex.
Yeah.
So, if 2 people are drunk, or one person is drunk in a situation where they're having sex at a party, and later on the next day, the one who was drunk was like, no, I didn't say yes, then the other person will be accused of rape. But maybe that person did say yes the night before when she was
drunk.
having sex. And so it's just
Yeah.
education around,
Right.
yeah,
So
around that.
Right.
Yeah, it's like if you're too drunk, then like really your decisions change.
Yeah.
Like I know if I'm drunk, my decisions are out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
what
could
I would
jump
do,
off a bridge. Yeah.
like literally out the door.
Yeah.
So I know that whatever decision I make when I'm drunk, they're not always the best decisions that
Right.
highlight who I am and what
Yeah.
I would want in the moment.
I think it's like an illegal situation.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard though because people do have sex when they're drunk, like, and they do give consent when they're drunk. But if you turn it into a legal situation, then it's not consensual because someone's drunk.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's very tricky.
It
is.
is. It
Lemon.
is. But that's why it's so important for people to know that.
know that,
Because
yeah.
like you should be able to go out and have a good time.
Yes.
But if you're both too drunk, then you just wait the next
Yeah.
day.
It's not often the greatest.
No,
either,
no,
eh?
it's, yeah, no,
You know,
not at
you know.
all.
Yeah.
But you know,
It's gotta be meaningful.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Next up.
So we both got a point there.
This one's a scenario. This goes quite well with what we just talked about. So it's a scenario. Johnny, 19, tells Aroha, 14, she looks really hot and asks her on a date. Is this okay? Think about the difference in age.
say that again. What age?
So Johnny, who's 19, tells Aroha, 14,
Oh.
she looks really hot and asks her on a date. Is this okay?
No.
Kapai. Both of you. This
Hell
is
no.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are the
Also,
reasons?
what are you up
do you
to,
think?
eh?
What are you up to? You're
Oh,
19.
well,
Yeah.
The age of consent.
Yeah,
Again, being 16, but also that's like really backwards, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really to protect people who are young from
Exactly.
old. When you're 19, you're just in different. You're not at high school. You're
Yes.
not. There's different
You
power
know.
imbalances from
Exactly.
14 to 19.
I think like there's a bit of changes in heaps of age gaps, eh?
Huge
Like
differences.
24 to 18, even though
Yeah.
that's legal, Like, I feel like I'm at a different part of my life where we couldn't relate.
Absolutely.
Oh,
But even
yeah.
24, 44.
Yeah.
Different.
I have a cousin that's
Isn't it
19 and he has a 48-year-old girlfriend. And I was
19. It's hard because it is consensual, but it's also just something
it's
weird
not
about
funny.
it.
It's not funny, my
No, no,
cousin.
no, 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 no. Yeah.
But when it happened, I was like, so this is my bro. Like, he's my cousin right
Yeah.
here.
He probably thinks it's cool.
Yeah, and his partner walked past, and it was at a Finau event.
Yeah.
So I was like, who's this auntie? And he's like to me, oh, that's my partner. And I was like so shocked. Not that it's
Not
wrong.
who's this auntie?
Yeah, but I thought she was our auntie. Like, I was like, why don't I know this auntie at this event? Yeah, I was like, who's she? She was one of our uncles. Nah, I was with my cousin. Buzzy man, but
Back in the day, though, was it quite common for things like that to happen?
Very.
So,
Well,
how do we know? How can we even say if that's okay?
right or wrong?
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
just-
it's not.
I don't
Hey,
know.
It's fine because of legal.
Yeah.
Legally, it's fine,
legally
but
it's
like,
fine. But
Ethically, I just feel like the power imbalance.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a 19-year-old to a 48-year-old, they're two different life.
Oh yeah.
Like 48-year-olds lived and like probably traveled, has like a stable income potentially. 19-year-old, you're
Yeah.
still
Finding
figuring
your
shit
feet.
out.
Yeah.
and would they be held back from living?
Exactly.
You know?
Oh, that's a crazy situation.
That's a whole nother
We can unpack
Yeah.
that. Sorry.
age demographic, right?
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
adult differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, another situation. Jordan and Kerry are both 17 at a party. Jordan suggests they go upstairs and make out. Kerry agrees. Is this okay? They are drinking fizzy drinks.
Aww.
Cute.
That's
Sounds like
so
me.
cute.
Yeah, Coke Zero.
Also sounds like
What
a
type
lie
of
to
fizzy
mum and
drinks?
dad. We're only drinking fizzy, mum.
Just Fanta, I promise.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. That's a
love
good
that.
scenario.
That's so
Nobody's been
cute,
this
eh?
creative with their
That's so cute.
That is
Cute.
cute.
Just having a little cute romantic
Also, let's
time.
have some privacy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's do it. I love
Okay.
it.
Those are my partai.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've won again.
Cut it out.
That was close. Both of you did really well.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, that was very
Thanks,
good.
Jess.
But no, this a serious topic that can be taken in light with how you've been creative with those questions.
Yeah.
I think that was very informative
Yeah.
way of going about it.
Makes you think a lot. It's what we
Yeah.
talk to students about in school visits and stuff.
What you were talking about before, like back in the day, and that power balance between, just the age differences. And we've talked about this on another podcast where just kids, that was their duty for in Māori culture to if the rangatira come from another pa, they would send out these kids to please them. That was their role for the night, you know. So it's
It's usually people that were non-binary. gender
yeah. Oh, it
non-conforming,
happened
right?
with everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
in a traditional narrative of where I'm from, the kauai for women was a sign of bearing children. They were ready to bear children. So if they had gotten their period, you could be 8 and get your period. They would get their kauai and it would show they're ready to be impregnated. So, like, that's where society's changed a lot. But even in our old stories, and it's, you know, in Māori culture, it's really, it's not that that unknown that we have a lot of whānau that have gone through sexual abuse. And it runs back as old a time in our stories with Tāne Mahuta creating the first person, Hinu Ahuone.
Yeah.
And that's a clay person. Like it's said, the story is where he creates her, and it's his daughter, and then he proceeds to put his ure, or his penis, in all these different holes of his daughter, you know. So that's the kind of narrative of Māori where it wasn't seen as an age difference thing, and consent wasn't a part of it, a part of those stories anyway.
Is that the story of Hene Noi Te Po?
Nah, Hene Ahuone.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, there's plenty of stories in our tradition that I think are just like fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like, what
And
the
then
fuck?
but then that's how we've been brought up. And
But
that's
it's also
our-
like, why was it? It can't have been wrong to them.
Yeah.
at that time. So when society
But it must
changed,
have been wrong to the people who were receiving that.
Oh,
Like, it would have felt wrong to them, surely.
well,
Being violated almost.
I think
I don't know.
it's what you know, eh?
Yeah.
And you only know what you know.
Yeah.
So if all you know is that you've been bred for this role, then you probably didn't understand what was going on, and that's sad because even today we see things that are going wrong, and maybe these kids don't understand that that's not their role. And we have lots and lots of whānau that have sexual abuse history, and the kids just aren't even at the point, and that's why I disagree with a lot of our history so much, and why I'm happy it's changed. But that's where the consent thing is so huge, because these kids, they don't even know what consent is. They don't even understand what's going on. If they're told this is their role, then that's what they think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's okay then.
Because it's a parent, or not parent, but it's usually people who are older than them that they look up to as guardians that are telling them this stuff. So
Yeah.
this is why they think, oh, if they tell me that, then that's okay.
Yeah.
And I should do that. Because they don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
the quote unquote norm, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like that's where the harm is that we also still have people experiencing that norm. Like there's still people that think that this is normal, like experiences and whatnot. We really want to change that. What kind of like, what was the driving point for you to get involved into this mahi? Like what called you here?
I think I started Brave in 2018, and at the time I was Miss World New Zealand, and part of that role was creating a project that could help people in your community. And throughout, like it's really interesting to share the story, but throughout doing pageants, it helped me realise the gift of doing charity work and helping people. So in previous years I had done things like fundraise for Ronald McDonald House and gone to see like tamariki there who were going through horrible things that as adults like I can't even process, but they appreciated the help from us. And I think the seed kind of grew that, if I want to give back in some way, but I need to be ready. So throughout Miss World New Zealand we had self-development courses where we would get in for like a weekend, would have someone come in, and then all of the girls would get together and talk about the most vulnerable parts of our lives. And I had one friend of mine who, we were in a circle, and she was telling us about how she had been sexually abused when she was younger. And I was just so amazed by her, because I had never been able to tell someone for like the last 10 years that also happened to me. And I thought, okay, if it happened to her, then I can speak up and tell everyone. And I thought I was going to be confident and fine. And I told the group of girls, and I just burst out. Like, I just cried. Like, it was like all this inside of me had just come out at the same time as me, like, disclosing to my group of friends. And the reason why, like, when I was younger, when it happened to me, should I just tell you from the beginning?
If you want to share,
Okay.
absolutely.
So what happened to me when I was younger, I was about 8 to 9. I was sexually abused by my mum's partner at the time, so my stepfather, and it happened over a period of months, but I didn't know what to do about it because I was so young. I felt wrong, but I didn't know how to tell anyone, because how do you tell someone, like, as an 8-year-old, someone's hurting me? But one day I heard my mum and my auntie talking at one of our houses, and she was saying to my auntie, oh, my girls tell me everything. Like, they tell me everything. They're so open to me. And I walked past and I said to my mum, Mum, I don't tell you everything. And then she said, oh. And then she thought about that day. And the next morning, we had morning cuddles, because I was like a mama's girl. And we would like always, I don't know, get up in the morning and go give her a cuddle in bed. And she said, yesterday you said you don't tell me everything, is something happening to you. And then she went through a list of things, list of people who might be hurting me, because I even today, like, I'm still very shy. I'm still a very shy person, but I couldn't tell her because I didn't want to hurt her, because it was him, her partner, and I saw that she was happy. Anyway, so she went through a list of people who could have been hurting me. It started with the boys, like, at school, because there were some boys at school that did inappropriate things to me, and then other people, and he was last on the list, and I said yes. And then she said, what's been happening. And I couldn't word that either. I couldn't describe the thing. So then I would write. She said, can you write it down? Because I used to have a diary. I like writing, which I love doing today too. So I wrote it down, what happened to me, and I described what had happened. And she freaked out, of course. Like, she was like, you know how she wanted to kill him. Like, everyone wanted to. That's what a mother would do.
Of course.
Anyway, I think the next day she broke up with him straight away, had a big fight, and then she went to police. And from that point onwards, the police led us through things like counsellors and how to give evidence. Like, I remember sitting in a room being recorded saying what happened to me to this camera, which was just weird as like an 8 or 9 year old. And then went, I think 18 months or so after first contacting the police, we went through a court trial. So it was 2 days, and there were a number of people that spoke on his behalf and on like my behalf. And I just remember like there's just some moments that really stood out to me. The first thing was how many people were there. Like, my family all came to support us, but also how I just wanted my mum to be okay, because when this happened, my mum was very sporty. So she used to play rugby, and he used to play rugby too. So people thought that she was making this stuff up and that she was doing it to get back at him. So then she had a really hard time. Anyway, I just remember wanting to be there for my mum and wanting to do well for her because I cared about her so much. But I'd also remember like sitting in the stand and then having his lawyer just asking me questions. Like, it was horrible. Like, I just remember crying. Like, it was like
illegal.
It's like,
yeah.
And like now it's changed. But I think I must have been about 9 years old when I was sitting on that crazy little box thing with the Bible here. And then I remember seeing the jury across from me just like crying. And it's just crazy, eh? Like, and I think about that, like that little girl. But I think the best thing about it is that my mum believed me. And that's the thing that I just love sharing the most is like, because it is hard. As a mother, I think about it now, having your child tell you that your partner's being sexually abusing them, like that is messed up. And the fact that my mum...
Instantly.
Yeah, instantly. And I have so many stories of girls who have had their parents who don't believe them. And I think back to... My mum believed me straight away. And if we didn't go to police, if we didn't go to court, if we didn't deal with that thing back then, I wouldn't have like gone through this healing process. I probably would have just shut off and like become...
Even shut off with the relationship with your mum.
Oh, absolutely. Like, would have just been... There's so many bad things that can happen to someone who isn't believed. And that's why it's so important for me to share my story, like when I go to schools. So with Brave... So there was a time when it happened, when I went to court, when I was about 9, and then there was that time from then until I finished university where I didn't tell many people because when I was a kid, I would tell my friends and they didn't know what to say or do because they didn't even know what sexual abuse was. We would have been about 10. I used to tell, I remember telling one boyfriend and he didn't know what to say, and then I just felt so nervous and like I was so whakama that I didn't tell anyone because no one knew how to deal with it, which is fine because as kids, no one should know. Like, it's not a common thing. So that's why I started Brave, is because of what I went through. And there's so many other people going through the same thing that are too nervous to talk about it. They feel whakama. Like, I remember feeling... So back at school, if you look at me now, like, you'll see that I'm quite well presented. People might think because I've done beauty pageants that I'm more like pure and like, I don't know, this thing, but I was so nervous that if people looked at me that they would be like, oh, she's been sexually abused, she's not as pure, beautiful as what we might think. So then I had this whole, like, I was so nervous. But when I won Miss New Zealand, I thought, and after doing the charity work, I saw the benefits of helping others and by being vulnerable to do that. So when I started Brave, I remember like launching the charity and speaking to camera. I did put this like video up on the Instagram page to announce my project for the year, and it felt like I was jumping off a cliff because I was so scared that people were going to look at me and be like, oh, she's not as beautiful now because she's been like touched or like sexually abused by someone. But it was just so silly for me to think that, because no one ever has said anything like that. If anything, there's just been so much support, and the feeling of showing that vulnerable side to help others has just been like, it's something you can't describe. Like, you can't get satisfaction out of doing a good job at work. It's not rewarding like getting a pay rise. It's like you're helping people because this is like changing their lives, and that's something that I just love so much about Brave. Like, it's, I just go on, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just going on a rant, aren't I?
Right away. This is the topic that we should have more about that. Like,
Yeah.
and you sharing your experience, and then also having a platform where people can access. That's so important for people to know, especially because it's such a prevalent issue.
Yeah.
When I think about this a lot, when it comes to, you talk about believing people, like your mum believed you.
Yes.
Like, how amazing that your first person you told said, put words to action, and like said, I'm going to do something about it, and I believe you, and they kept you safe. And I think like that would have just been amazing for your attachment with your mum, which then possibly is why you're so joyful today, is because you had that safety, you know, that village around you to kind of hold you. But I think a lot about, I know for, in my friendship group, a really horrible situation happened where I'm no longer friends with these people, but there was sexual assault in the friendship group, and most of them, you know, sided with the abuser, and I was the only person who didn't, and I lost all my friends after that. And I remember I was 21 at the time, and I remember being like, where do I go for information? Where do there's no rule book, rule book for dummies on how to deal with a friend that's a rapist. Like, how, someone that you trusted, you grew up with, known since a kid. What could you say to people who potentially could be dealing with this, whether they like have heard of this from a friend or know about someone else that they know has hurt someone? What would be the advice that you would give to them?
I think firstly, I think it's amazing that you believed it, whoever was abused, because I like to tell people to just believe people no matter what, because even if it didn't happen, there's got to be a reason why they said that. So there needs to be further conversation into what happened, and if it didn't happen, then that's okay, and we can talk about it more about why you would say this in the first place. And then, but with the other friend who was the supposed perpetrator, I think there needs to be a conversation there, one that is empathetic as well, like not judging straight away, but just saying like, hey, did this happen? Like, you can tell me the truth. I'm not going to judge you, and we can find out how to deal with this. If it did happen, we can get you help.
Right.
Like, non-judgmental. And because while a lot of me inside really doesn't like people who hurt others, the only way to get through this is to help people who are doing it so it doesn't happen again, so they don't hurt others. So I think it's just having conversations about just sitting down and just saying like, I don't judge you, but this is not okay, and you need to know that it's not okay. It's hard because it's not your responsibility either. You've got to keep yourself safe, I think. And I'm not a professional either, so this is just my personal opinion.
Yeah,
but
totally.
Yeah, I think,
which is important.
Yeah,
I feel like we have a lot of like medical, clinical information about these things. It's good to have a personable story. And I wish that I had Brave at 21. But also I find that a lot of things are targeted towards survivors of sexual harm, which is amazing. But there isn't much for perpetrators of sexual harm. Because at the end of the day, our justice system is horrible. And so we can't rely on that to be the space to rehabilitate people who are causing this harm, right? So where can people go if they are causing harm or do know of people causing harm?
So it depends, I think, who they are. There are a few groups, but the first place that I would recommend anyone to go to is Safe to Talk. So and they can lead people into different directions. There's also, so they do help people who are perpetrators or who think that they could harm someone, and they help them find counsellors. There's also, if there's male survivors, there's an organisation down in Nelson, I think, that helps survivors that are male, because there's a whole area there that there's just a big stigma that it doesn't happen to males when it definitely does.
that's really hard to, in my position anyway, to have compassion for the perpetrator.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
And the thing is, too, that if someone's a perpetrator, it's likely that it happened to them too, so they were a victim, and it's just about stopping that cycle. And, like, yes, it's wrong that it's happened, but they need help too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
And I say that with hurt, because
Of
as a victim myself,
course.
I still hate it. I hate that it happens. I
Yeah.
get really angry if
Of
I hear it happening,
course.
but if you want to solve a problem, if we want to prevent it from happening, the people who are doing it need to be helped too.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're going to exist in communities too.
Yeah.
You know, what happens, you know, this is we have to solve it from the root of the problem.
Yeah.
It's hard because I'm
hard.
just like, kill them off.
Oh yeah, sometimes
That's a
I
real response. Yeah.
Like that's like
honestly, I feel the
it's
same, but I won't say because
yeah, it's good that you have a bigger heart than me and you're the one dealing with it, because I'd be very unforgiving. And I think it's really hard because I have whānau and we've gone through this too many times around whānau being sexually abused by uncles and cousins and whatnot, and more often than not, the mum's not believing in their kids and staying with the abuser, and like shocking to me, because like when I growing up with knowing these uncles and loving these uncles growing up, and then to find out their sickness that they had given now to my cousins, like it was just they're really hard conversations to have that I haven't been able to face as a person. I really struggle with the compassion side around it. Not for my cousins, I just feel so sorry. And the other thing, thinking for them as kids, thinking it's their fault.
yeah,
That was something we had to talk through with our whānau about. It's not your fault that this is happening, it's their sickness, their mari. But yeah, the compassion side is hard to deal with.
it is.
Yeah.
And I'm the same.
I can feel like in my puki right
You're like,
now,
yeah.
fucking fire,
my
man,
brain
yeah.
goes, I'm fiery. I get,
Yeah.
it's like the only time you'll ever see me pissed off, because I'm
Yeah.
quite happy. But if someone discloses to me and says that their mum didn't believe them and she's staying with the guy, I want to go punch someone in the face.
Absolutely, that's real.
It is,
That's
it is,
real.
it
People,
is.
like that's so real.
Yeah.
I feel like there's
it
no wrong
does.
way. I feel like in this situation, what you're sharing, it's not wrong to feel that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
wrong to not believe a young
Yes.
kid coming to you, or a person that you love coming to you for that. But you wanting to hurt someone is because you love that person, and you're like, why would you hurt
Yeah.
in that
So
way?
innocent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like if this happens, a mum not believing, it could also be that the partner is providing for the family, and if she leaves him, she's going to have
Circumstances change,
no
resources.
financial support. Where is she going to go? And it's just, I'm lucky that my mum was really, really strong and independent, but there are people out there that are actually struggling, and
Totally.
it's
It would've
not
been hard
justified,
for your
but you
mum
can
too
understand.
to deal with the actual guilt.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
and
she
it still has got her, like, I think one of the best moments was when we did an interview with Native Affairs. It was a current affairs show at Whakaata Māori, and she was part of the interview, and the greatest thing about the story was that she could share her side, and she could be kind of like a role model for other mothers out there, that she went through so much shit, but she was able to do it for her kids and look at how things have turned out. And if you don't stand up for your kids, then they're probably going to have really bad, futures ahead of them, where there could be mental health problems. They might continue to get into bad relationships because they think that behaviour is normal. And there's just so many things that could happen. I'm just really grateful that I didn't go through that.
You had a badass mama.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I do.
she sounds so cool.
She amazes me. When you get older, you just really appreciate your mum so much.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
As a person, eh? 'Cause
Yeah,
as
like
a
I
kid-
always did. I could never. She is fierce. Like, she is crazy. I could never
I
disrespect
recently
her.
saw this TikTok, and this is kind of changing the demographic, I guess, a little bit, where the age population, like we're talking a lot about little kids, but this was like of adult women who had experienced sexual harm, and the whole Me Too movement coming out, and more conversations and people being like, but it's a he, she, like, it's like, who do you believe, right? And she was saying, I would rather believe someone who potentially could be a liar than someone who could potentially be a rapist. And I remember listening to her say that, and I was like, that's so real. Like, obviously we know that sexual assault is real, and there's so many less people that are lying about it than actually experiencing it. And I feel like a lot of us are like, but what if she's lying, or what if he's lying, or what if they're lying? Like, people fixate on that so much. But when I saw that TikTok, I was like, that's so true. Like, the potential liar, I would rather have than someone who's a potential rapist, and regarding to believing it. So I'm always like, believe a person who's saying that. If they're saying this person hurt me, believe them. Because that's so real for them. Do you find that there's with social media and like people who are really popular and people who are famous and well known, that there are a lot of people who like back them if they've caused harm?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've seen it so many times. I won't mention names because I don't do that, but but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, and on both sides, and like, how do I say that? So I've heard of so many people who've got in touch with me about people who have perpetrated against others, and victims who've reached out to me and said that this person who was famous or whatever has done something, and I believe them no matter what. But I also don't go around and tell their stories and make this other person sound bad, because it's not legally proven, and that's defamation too. So
that's the hard thing, right? Because I know, like, obviously the last few years things have been brought up to the surface. I'm not going to go detail also on like a lot of stuff, but I know that in my world, like my algorithms, I follow predominantly Māori and Pasifika women, and I know that there was a lot of stuff circulating last year around this topic and the year before, and I watched such pain from women just sharing stories, and there being a common person that they were sharing it about. And I watched how this person that they were talking about who had caused them harm was just put on a pedestal in so many different ways. And I was just so heartbroken for these young women and these and what I also don't think people realize was that most of the people that was saying he had caused harm were Māori and Pasifika women. And I just felt like I watched how Māori and Pasifika men weren't supporting this and were protecting this person, and it was just so painful to watch. I feel like that's the hard thing of social media is that you're going to see reoccurring faces and people who are very charismatic and people love and want to watch and want to do, all this stuff, but are people who also could be causing a lot of harm to different people. What do you say to people who are accessing social media that potentially could be triggered by that? Like, do you feel like triggers is something we should talk more about? And do you think that people who have caused harm should have platforms, even if it's not proven?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I mean, I think I recommend people who have been through something, who have been possibly victims of abuse, to report that to police if they want to. They don't have to. And then the more people that report it to police, a more of a case can be made against this person. And it's done through a legal process as opposed to social media, because social media can sometimes...
It's all bullshit, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it probably, like, things have happened, like, things would have happened, but social media isn't going to fix it. The only way to really fix it is to go through the police or to go through counselling and things like that to actually prove that this has happened, because otherwise it's just he, she said.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
That does.
I think it's so hard though. I don't know the answer.
I feel like I struggle with people's solution of going to the police, just because when I was a social worker, I would go into the court hearings and deal with police officers and detectives when it came to children experiencing sexual harm, and I would watch these kids be questioned, as you said, in a way that was so horrible that was kind of like, well, did you give an inkling to him as a 10-year-old?
It makes me sick.
And so I'm thinking, if a 10-year-old is being asked this, could you imagine a 28-year-old woman? Like, how short was your dress? Did you touch him in a certain way? Or did you touch them in a certain way? Like, and I feel like the police solution is like, sounds good in our head. we're like, yeah, go to the police. But police are not always the safest place.
Yeah.
For
And
so many reasons.
There's no one to not help Māori in Pacific.
Exactly.
It's not a very safe space to want to go.
No.
Either.
No.
And which is great that you've created the safe space,
Hideout.
Brave.
Yeah.
Because just like we were talking about, to wrap it up, like more than anything, it's the conversation and it's the support network
Yeah.
that you have around you, which will help you through this. And information.
Yes, exactly.
Information, like around consent, which you've
Yeah.
taught us today. Consent, sexual harm prevention.
I feel like we're focused on a lot
Oh
of
my
sexual harm
gosh.
stuff. Sorry, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day about
I know,
this.
I
Yeah.
I feel like,
Me
There's so
too.
much.
and that's why people need to go and look at Brave and find you on social media. Go look at, do you have a website?
Yes,
Yeah,
we do.
website. Where else can people find you? Like, do you have a TikTok?
Mainly Instagram. We have a TikTok. We have one, but I haven't taken any videos or
Okay.
put them on. This is my goal this year. Yeah, there's a lot of things coming.
Just to wrap us up, like, last question. What do you think we as a society can do better?
I think, as we've talked about today, believing someone if they've disclosed to you is one of the most important things. If you're a bystander and you see something happening and someone's uncomfortable, then step in and stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had a list of stuff, but
That's okay. That's good
yeah,
ones.
I think just believing people and having the empathy for people, and not, don't let things like social media control or influence your decisions on whether something has happened or not, because she said, he said, and that's so vague, but I don't
Have
know.
compassion.
Yeah,
no
I think-
judgment. Hold a safe space.
Yeah,
If you're the person being disclosed.
yeah.
and just believe people.
Yeah, mainly just believe people. Because at the end of the day, if you've been affected by sexual harm, being believed is so important to make you feel like you're accepted and that people understand you and you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, what are some key things we can teach just at home with our own whānau on consent and sexual harm prevention?
I think one thing is learning the correct terms of body parts,
Yeah, fine.
and then showing what body parts are yours only for no one else to touch. The reason I say that is because for me, when I was younger, I wasn't able to really communicate what happened to me because I didn't want to use the term like vagina or like things like that because it was so like, that's kind of taboo, But this is what it is, if I had the words or felt comfortable to say the words, I could have said that instead of writing it down.
Right.
But there's the other thing as well, giving children the other thing is giving children the control or the decision whether or not they want to give someone a hug. If you go to like whānau events and stuff, like you often see when there's celebrations on and tamarikia kind of said, "Oh, go mihi atu ki aia." It's kind of, and it's lovely because I love that too, because it's all about whanaungatanga and everything like that. But also it's important to just say, give them a kiss if you want. Hug them if you want. Like, it's your decision to make, because that teaches them the skills that when they get older, do that only if you want to, and helps them think about, do I want that? Because when you get into a relationship with a partner and they're like wanting you to do stuff with them, you might feel, if you're younger, obliged to do it because this is just what we do. If you go into a relationship and your partner wants you to
have sex.
yeah,
and you
you're
don't
like,
feel
oh, I'm
that
obliged
way.
because that's what I'm used to. Like, I just give myself to people because it's the norm, and
That's
it
how I've
shouldn't
been
be like
taught.
that. Yeah,
Hi.
Yeah.
That's really hard because I haven't thought about it like that.
it is hard because it is
Because my
like
nieces
normal.
and nephews, if they run past me without giving me a kiss, I'm like, oi!
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
feel the same because as adults, we love
Yeah,
our
love
little
them.
ones. Like, we just want to grab them and,
Yeah.
oh, I'm terrible. And I
Yeah.
have to, but I remember now, like, since doing Brave, I'm like, you don't have to do that if you don't want to.
Yeah, because I've got
Yeah.
I've got a niece and a nephew. This is so funny because I've got a niece and nephew, and my niece loves me, like loves coming up to me,
Yeah.
and like whenever I say, she'll be, Uncle Joe, run over, give me a hug and kiss. And then like my nephew, and it's turned into a funny thing for us, but he'll be like, look at me, turn and run, and I'm like, I'll hunt him, hunt him down. But now realizing that those teachings can actually be harmful.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really
Harder than
say.
that, yeah,
it's
but
hard to say
it's
for
a nice
sure.
way to teach
Yes,
is that you have
Yeah.
the decision to.
exactly.
There was that teacher in America, and he would basically, people could choose whether he could high five, fist bump, hug, or like do a little dance. And every morning, each student, he would come up, they would come up and greet him, and they could choose, like, he would just follow their lead.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, just follow kids' lead. If they want to hug you, they'll hug you. If they just want to fist bump, or they just want to wave, or they just don't want to do anything.
Look
like,
away.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Very cool way
Very
to finish.
good.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jess.
Thank
You've
you.
been so strong and brave.
Oh, thank you.
And it's a beautiful story and a beautiful way to address this in a light enough way where it's digestible, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it was for me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, shit.
Intense.
Which is normally how these conversations go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been intense in the sense where this is a horrible, tough topic, and there's so many ways that we could go with this, and I think that you bring so much light and love and compassion into it, and that's so important.
Oh, thank you.
And I know people are going to really love that. So thank you so much for being with us.
That's
and,
okay.
we just
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it. And thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
It means a lot to be able to have the opportunity to share this kōrero because it's kind of like my thing.
Yeah, it is, literally.
Real grateful,
You're turning something so ugly that you experience into something that can give people space and belief. And,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and this like drive that you're brave by existing in your truth. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's us, and thank you so much, Jess. But
Look
that's
up
the
Brave.
end of our... Yes, look up Brave.
Look up Brave.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the end of this episode for Under the Whāriki. And we're ending it here.
Hi.
Ka kite anō.